What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you another week of what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined by my trusty co-host, who's here to not do aimless chatting, but just normal, good chatting. Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, how you doing, man?
Pat, you're my treacherous little twin, and you know that we locked in.
Oh
Let's
God.
go.
We're talking Banshees of Inisherin today. We're talking Drake, 21 Savage, Her Loss, as well as some other movies and Grammy predictions. So hit that subscribe on youtube.com/nostalgiapod. Dave, we have a lot to get into today, so I figure we might as well just jump right into one of the 5 movies that we're talking about today. And that's Causeway, the Jennifer Lawrence comeback film. Uh, Premiered at Toronto 2022 International Film Fest back in September. Um, Been a while, I feel like, since I really was like tuned into like a Jennifer Lawrence movie, but I knew this was coming. I knew that this movie was out there. After seeing it, I was pretty like, okay, it's a good step in the right direction for J Law. Overall, thought it was an okay movie, but more than anything, I think just seeing her like being in a movie that was like competent and like felt like it was really like letting her showcase more than just being like, I don't know, really pretty is really
Mhm.
nice. So I don't know. I enjoyed Causeway, didn't love it. What about you?
Yeah, I also had been anticipating this. This used to be known as Red, White, and Water, and had kind of been on the radar for a while. They actually filmed this way back in 2019, perhaps the last like pre-pandemic movie to actually come out. Quite the wait. Um, the directorial debut from Leela Neubauer, who is a theater director, and Jennifer Lawrence also was one of the producers on this too, and she did a lot of press about in the lead up to Causeway about how she was really invested in taking that next step in her career and making more pointed and specific choices about the role she was taking on. It seems like she's none too interested in the franchise game she played for a while, or even stuff like a Passengers, which he's kind of openly knocked at this point. But Causeway, which is on Apple TV Plus now, I think it's like a pretty solid movie. Like it's effective film, but it's also just so like small in scope, and the drama of its plot is also quite reined in. So there's only like so many moments to wow you. I think Jennifer and Brian Tyree Henry both great. They always are, but it's just one of those scripts, one of those films that's quite reined in. Not that there's not good things about it, but it's not a showy movie.
Definitely not a showy movie. More toned back and intentional, and just to clean something up, we did see J Law with "Don't Look Up"
Yeah,
last December, but
her
another
first like
movie.
vehicle in a while, though.
Yeah, and another movie where she's, I think, intentionally playing a specific type of character that's a
Hmm.
little bit more about the character and less just about like J Law's star power.
Hmm.
And I really give her credit because I think the themes that Causeway is trying to get across are meaningful and important. This is set back in the 2000s, after 9/11. Um, Back in down in NOLA, so we get a New Orleans feel, which I actually thought this was like a pretty like nice New Orleans movie.
Hmm.
It didn't have to showcase all the like showy parts of it. I mean, you see the
Yeah.
Mercedes Benz Dome in the beginning, but other than that, like
Residential New Orleans, not Bourbon Street.
exactly. And I thought that was pretty nice. Um, and I really feel like what made this movie so compelling was just that you get 2 really strong performances from Tyree Henry and Lawrence here, and I think their friendship, their on-screen chemistry, was really strong and never like there's the scene near the end where they share a kiss and it kind of leads to like this fight between them.
Hmm.
Up to that point, I was just kind of enjoying being with their relationship and their respect for each other as people who are really like trying to deal with their grief and their trauma in different ways. And that part of the movie actually like kind of just felt like they like threw it in. Like I understand where they were kind of going for, and it leads to like the moment where J-Law says like, "I just felt so bad for you" thing, which I think is
Ugh,
yeah,
tough.
supposed to, yeah, that was really tough to sit through, but effective for the movie. And yeah, I think I just kind of left being like two good actors just kind of doing what two good actors do, and I really enjoyed that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's only so much to really like latch on to. Brian Tyree Henry, he had been doing more franchisey stuff lately. Like he was in Bullet Train, Eternals, kind of getting some bags. But he's always been good. And this kind of reminds me of like Brian Tyree Henry in If Beale Street Could Talk, where he is just
Mm.
a strong presence all the time. I think he nailed the like deep South accent, the Bayou Southern accent. By the way, like the vocals, he was the words, the word he's laying down on that sounded great. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think like it's a movie about trauma and grief, and these people both coming from like really tough experiences in their lives. Lawrence's character, a traumatic brain injury, like, and yet it's not like one of those movies with some of the more cliche like blow up scenes. It doesn't have that. So I think you just kind of have to sit there with those performances and just kind of be with that relationship, because that's really all this movie is those two characters coming into each other's lives and through ups and downs kind of helping each other progress in their lives. So um I mean, shout out Apple, I guess. It's a nice movie to have to pick up, and looking forward to Lawrence doing more stuff like this and just kind of showcasing and reminding everyone just how talented she actually is when she's actually like with some like strong material.
Yeah, I completely agree. I I have to say, probably the moment that I found to be most emotionally like moving was the scene between uh, Lindsay and her brother when she goes to visit him in prison, which I think is intentional. But having him not only be a person who can't hear, but also, having that like no music put behind that scene, just kind of sitting with this conversation, really like making you like tune into the movie. I thought that was really well done and really effective. I'm trying to remember what the brother's name was. I think it was Justin.
Hmm.
Yeah, played by Russell Harvard.
It's a bit of
And
a like they sneak it up on you too, because there's that whole
yeah,
scene where he's like, "Your brother's dead." He's like, "No, he's not dead. He's in prison." And it's like kind of a surprise. You'd kind of
yeah,
assume he's out of the picture, but he's out of the picture in a different way.
yeah, I thought that was really great. And I like that the movie doesn't really like uh, it makes you sit with it all, which is tough at times. Hearing um, James talk about the death of his family in the car accident, that it was his fault. Hearing her talk about the trauma, which is just a reminder of how far I think medicine and psychology has come in terms of like dealing with people post a trauma. The fact that the
Yeah,
doctor was just like, tell me exactly what happened, like tell me
yeah.
I was like, that this is so unethical.
McKinley
But
Henderson, he's always
yeah,
great.
but
Stephen McKinley Henderson.
15 years later would be handled hopefully much differently. But yeah, I thought the movie was just overall really like thoughtful and well done, but like you said, a small movie, so maybe not a ton to dig into beyond the surface. Anyways, let's keep it moving. Uh Dave, bringing the people the content that they need, saw Aftersun this weekend, the Paul Mezcal movie that we've all been waiting for since Normal People. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, After Sun, kind of a movie that snuck up on me. This is an A24 film, just came out in limited release a few weeks back. Actually debuted back at Cannes and was one of the most critically adored films of Cannes, which is obviously no small feat in any year. And it's finally coming out, and this is the debut from a new filmmaker, Charlotte Wells, who I don't really know too much about, but of course stars Paul Mescal. And gosh, is this his first big film role? It might be. He's
Think
been
so.
cast in a lot of stuff. This is probably one of, if not the first thing to really come out since Normal People, of course, catapulted him to stardom in early 2020. And man, it's I just knew it was well liked. I didn't really know much about it going in, and knew it was something to see. And it's it's a small film, but I think the filmmaking approach and the screenplay kind of surprises you in a good way. Like it's unconventional, and the story is quite simple to wrap your head around. Where it's Paul Mescal plays a young father in his, like Paul's age, like early 30s, and he's taking his 11-year-old daughter Sophie on a vacation to Turkey because I believe they're coming from the UK, and that's like because it's a vacation that Callum, Paul Mescal's character, he can afford it, right? And he's just kind of going with his daughter. He's no longer in a relationship with the mom, although they are cordial. And the movie is framed as Sophie, as an adult, kind of looking back on her memories and some video footage of this time she went on this trip with her dad. And she's kind of like reflecting back on things she knew and didn't know about her dad, and maybe things she could try and find out through the footage, and of course things she couldn't have known or picked up on as only an 11-year-old at the time. And like the way it like frames, I think, memory and uh, recorded footage as like a framing device is pretty interesting. But most of the film is really in that memory time where you're no longer in like grainy footage. It's just we're in picture with Paul Mescal and Sophie as an 11-year-old, played by Frankie Corio, who I thought was really good for a child performer. And yeah, it's just like it's not exactly like coming of age for Sophie per se. It's just like a few days at this kind of like resort area, and some other ancillary characters come in, but you never quite know like what's gonna happen with the characters. And Mescal as Callum, you can tell that he's a character with like things going on in his life, unsurprising for a young father. But it's not concerned about like telling you the answers to all those questions. That's like not like what the movie is about at all. It's more about like the, I think, search for like meaning through like the lens of Sophie's experience. It's kind of a lot to sit with, but ultimately like a really like humanistic movie, which Barry Jenkins actually is one of the
Mm.
producers on it, which makes some sense given the subject matter. There is an amazing Queen under pressure needle drop towards the end of this film, a long drop, by the way. It really hits. I think it's a really emotional moment. Um, yeah, and I think if you're into those kind of more, I don't want to say moody in a negative way because there's plenty of energy in this movie, but it's a more of an emotional, it's less about plot type story. I think you should definitely check out Aftersun. It's definitely unique.
I when you said a column, I thought for a second you might have gotten normal people confused with Connell, but yeah, it's nice to have Paul Mescal back, and I'm really excited to catch this one whenever I get the chance to, because I think he's a performer that I just feel like has a lot of potential to be in our lives for a long time. And he's one of those people that has such a distinct face that
Hmm.
it's like you could see him really becoming a movie star, even though he's not like conventionally handsome, I guess you would say. Like he's not Brad Pitt looks, but
He's not
uh,
Daisy Edgar Jones.
well, no one's as ugly as her, Dave. So, and anyone that's listening that doesn't know, that's a joke. For go watch the Normal People review. But anyways, let's keep it moving. We're gonna go from Paul Mescal, one of the heartthrobs in the UK, to another UK heartthrob, Harry Styles, my policeman. We've been talking about him a lot this year,
There goes
Dave.
that man once again.
I mean, he's having quite the 2022 so far. Huge album, two huge movies, blowing up all over TikTok during his tour. He's everywhere. People love Harry Styles, and he keeps pushing his way and just pushing his way into movies, and just always kind of feels like, is this really the right direction for him? And that brings us to My Policeman, directed by Michael Grandage, starring Styles, Emma Corrin, and Linus Roach. No, sorry, David Dawson. I
Hmm.
was looking at the other
Emma
name there.
Corrin, of course, famous for being Diana on The Crown on Netflix.
And so, a lot of anticipation about this movie. I think, especially because when we talked about Harry a few weeks back with boy, I'm blanking on the name.
Don't
Sorry, Don't
worry,
Worry, Darling.
darling.
So, of
Bro,
course, Don't
you
Worry,
worried.
Darling. I was not so worried just because that nothing to be worried about here. But um, there was rumors that his performance there got kind of panned, but my Policeman is really going to show off his acting
He's they,
chops.
they they definitely said he was better in My Policeman than Don't Worry Darling. That was a pretty common refrain when Don't Worry Darling came out, which we also reviewed. Check that out. But now My Policeman is out. Was in limited release. Now it's out on Amazon Prime Video. Anyone can watch it. And Pat, was Harry Styles better than he
Fuck
was in
no,
Don't Worry Darling?
fuck no, Dave. This is like he comes across as like very nice in every scene and
Mhm.
like pretty affable like overall, but there's just no substance to him as a character, and he should be the most interesting character in this whole movie. As Tom, the middle of this love triangle between Patrick and Marion, his
Without
wife.
Policeman.
Yeah, in a bisexual person in the 1950s.
Mhm.
Um, he should be a person that we're learning a lot about, and that we're exploring like what it means to be in this love triangle, what it means to be a bisexual person during this time, and especially because it seems like um the his gay fantasies and his gay proclivities are things that he was not aware of up until meeting this person, and it just kind of
Yeah.
gets like whitewashed, and it's like, okay, all of a sudden he's bisexual and he's cool with it, and
Yeah.
after like a 5 minute like drunken scene, it's like, okay, now this is just who he is.
Yeah.
I just feel
People
like
come to those conclusions in many ways.
that's
Who
true,
among
that's true.
us? But yeah, I agree that it's definitely a movie that lacks substance. I think just overall, like Harry aside, My Policeman is just a very straightforward period gay drama, meaning everything that's going to happen because it's set in the past. Queer people can't be themselves. They are going to be persecuted and targeted by the police and shunned by society. Sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Nothing new shown here, and there's nothing even that fun about the stuff that's not solemn and dreary because, like, the sex scenes aren't steamy at all, you know? They're super tame and, like, how do you like not show dick in the nudity scenes? Like, are we still doing this? Like, it's a
Yeah,
gay relationship and they don't show any dick? Are you kidding me?
I gotta be honest, because the first time that they like actually hook up, I think they barely even show them kissing, and I was like, oh, they're really gonna like do this behind closed doors. They're just not even gonna commit. And then there's a few scenes where you at least like see them like riding each other and things like that. So I was like,
Yeah.
this is as close as I bet Harry
Was
would
that
really let
Harry's
them
ass
get.
or was it a prosthetic?
I don't know, but his wig was great in this. I'll tell you that much.
And I think the thing that could have been the saving grace for My Policeman was the fact that there is this present day uh, setting in the script where we're with these three characters as older adults. So that like nobody dies, but things do happen from where they all are situated, and that perhaps could have had a way to frame the story in a more interesting way. But I don't think it adds really much of anything at all. And like spoilers, but like at the ending few frames where it's like the reconciliation of sorts. I just don't think it really lands because they just don't do enough work in the past tense stories to like make that relationship feel like a whole lot. It's really just kind of going through these motions that you very quickly recognize, and there's just little else to really liven it up. I don't mind conventional stories, things I can predict. I don't care if it's fun to be with and interesting, but this just wasn't that enjoyable to sit with, and nor is it like a great statement on like uh you know queer life back in the day. It's really, it has nothing going for it.
Yeah, having the older actors, you think that there's going to be some sort of explanation as to like the feelings that Tom has with Patrick being, so sick, but he really is just angry, and it's never totally. At least maybe I missed it, but is it explained why like he's so angry at Patrick, even though like the way things left off, where like Patrick was in jail and Tom just wouldn't go see him and is like, okay, I need to like commit to my straight marriage now. Like it. it just kind of felt like those feelings weren't explained at all. And then, you get the scene where older Patrick, or sorry, older Tom is crying in the car because he sees the gay couple walking by, and it's pretty clear that he's like not letting himself actually explore these feelings. I think that whole piece was kind of a mess. And then in thinking about like Marion as a character, um, it's pretty like black and white with her, which is kind of surprising given that she's somebody who, is like very interested in art and is not necessarily at the beginning of the movie painted as like a, you know, prim and proper little schoolgirl. Like she's definitely like in some ways like flirting with Patrick when she doesn't know that he's gay, and like it seems like there's like, this edginess or this like other side to her. And then pretty quickly she just like turns and is like, no, I can't accept gay people at all, which just feels kind of out of left field as well, especially the scene with her friend who's like, you really like don't know I'm gay as well, like
Yeah.
just a
It was
lot
just
of
like
like,
she was just like jealous and like basic petty shit, It's like, okay.
yeah, there's just like really not a lot there to hold on to. I'm even trying to think about like the scenes. Like, I thought, for example, their marriage scene, right, where you see that like the wedding and Patrick has to give a toast. I was like, oh, there's gonna be something here. He's gonna like drop some hints or something. No, just a
Right.
pretty straightforward toast. Like, hey, you guys are a great couple. Okay, what
Way
are we
better in
drinking?
House of the Dragon, where you get all the
Yeah,
side eye and the people figuring shit out. There's nothing going on in my
there's
policeman.
yeah, there's just nothing here, man. Yeah, I mean, Styles. I mean, obviously tapped to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe
hmm
moving forward.
That's the only thing on his schedule. Not that he has a specific movie coming up for that yet, but like he has no other projects publicized at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what I would want him to do. I guess maybe like go do some bit parts in some ensemble films. Like you think about like when Christopher Nolan did Inception and Tom Hardy really just like blows off the screen. You think something like that where he just gets to come in for like a few scenes, be super charming and just
Yeah,
like be like electric for like one or two
because he's
moments.
obviously handsome, so he could pull it off if he had the role and he had the chops to do it. But maybe he just doesn't have the chops. We don't know.
Yeah, I feel like something like that would be like the layup for him though.
Right.
All of this other stuff is like you're really
Yeah.
exposing yourself
You're
though.
yeah, you're way out of your depth with something this dramatic and
Yeah.
this aspirational. Like this
Yeah,
is
and
definitely not it.
Grandage only has one other film to his name. He's a very prolific British stage director, and I feel like he, was a little out of his depth on this as well because, the last one was a movie that had Jude Law and Colin Farrell in it called Genius, and
Mm.
I think having those actors, you can kind of clean up some of a director's inexperience, but this is just like the direction, the writing on this just did not work out at all. So.
Nope.
Anyways, Dave, I'm going to pass you the rock back because it's time to talk about Armageddon Time.
Yes, sir. James Gray back again. Armageddon Time, his first film since 2019's Ad Astra, which we of course did cover, and as well as the movie before that we talked about, Lost City of Z. So James Gray kind of back to I think more of his roots as a filmmaker back in New York City, more of a smaller in scope story than something as hard sci-fi as Ad Astra still was, even if it was a weighty, more James Gray type movie. And Armageddon Time, I think got a lot of anticipation just because it has a quite the stellar cast. Anthony Hopkins, Jeremy Strong, Anne Hathaway. Uh, Tough to argue with that. And I think probably the biggest headline about it would be that this is like a memoir type story. James Gray putting himself into our story here. Paul Graff is our lead character, but it's really just a stand-in for James Gray as a sixth grader in 1980 in Queens. That's where we are, and I think it's a movie that it maybe doesn't go anywhere that you can't like. It doesn't necessarily shock you or anywhere it goes, but I think it's quite earnest in how it approaches everything, And despite it being like autobiography, basically, on Gray's part, it doesn't necessarily like let anyone off the hook or pull any punches with its conclusion. And really, the crux of the movie, I think the reason the movie's successful would be an unsurprising reason, which would be that the two child performances are really strong. We very rarely see that, but you have two youth performances really carrying the movie for the most part, where young Paul, played by uh, Banks Repeta, meets Johnny, played by Jalen Webb, at school in sixth grade. And Paul is white and Johnny is black. Paul comes from a middle class but comfortable Jewish family in Queens, and Johnny, he finds out, doesn't really have much family support. Parents not really in the picture at all, and they kind of become kindred spirits when they both realize they're more or less like space cadets, head in the clouds types that don't really like listening to their teacher, and they kind of support each other when they take turns goofing off, and they start getting punished at school together and things like that, and they become genuine friends. And the way Armageddon Time kind of rolls out is Johnny, it's still the Paul story, it's still the James Gray story, so Johnny is still a bit of a plot device more than his own character, but it's, I guess, the Paul character's way of learning about how race functions in society, and uh, how things happen to you depends on who you know and what you look like. And him kind of learning that as a dumb sixth grader who doesn't know anything about the world. It's still kind of unflinching and about like the conclusions it takes, but I think the way the movie kind of gets you to this point is pretty enjoyable, because eventually we get taken out of that public school and Johnny and Paul get separated just due to some acting out, and Paul gets sent off to private school where his older brother goes. And of course, this is funded by Grandpa and Grandma. Grandpa, played by Anthony Hopkins. They immigrants that are trying to pay it forward with the later generations and send their kids up to private school to get that seat at the table. As Jewish immigrants fleeing Eastern Europe, they didn't have much, but now that they are more successful, they're trying to change things for the rest of their family. And it's a bit on the nose, but it's also memoiristic, where and tough to really quibble with, where you get this scene at the private school where on day one, when Paul's first day, once he's been sent there, and Paul comes face to face with someone who's like a connected to the school, not a teacher. He talks to him in the hallway, uh, gets sent off to the auditorium. He finds out that person he's talking to is Fred Trump, Donald Trump's
Oh
dad.
wow.
And then you have a sparkling cameo, one scene cameo, where Marianne Trump, Donald Trump's older sister, speaks to the students and gives a unsurprisingly dog whistly speech about status and mobility in society, as only you could expect from uh,
A
someone
Trump.
like her. Chastain, really good. Definitely looks like her. Has the same haircut and everything. Uh, but it's like one of those scenes where it's like you as the audience like know what it means, but you don't really know if Paul, as a sixth grade idiot, knows what it means. And I think that's what's I appreciate a lot about like James Gray's approach to telling the story, where like he doesn't shy away from the fact that like he was like a jerk to his parents as a dipshit kid, and was very ungrateful, and also really didn't know what was going on, while this very unfortunate circumstance was beginning to happen around him in terms of his friendship with Johnny. And things happen, and Paul really firsthand sees what happens when you're uh, white versus when you're not.
Mm.
I think the best scene in the movie, probably like the highlight reel of the film, would be this scene on the park bench that's actually your background, where Paul and his grandpa go to like the park to shoot off a model rocket they made, and Anthony Hopkins gives, I think, this really awesome performance where he basically tells Paul to like stand up to bullies and fight against inequality, and like he kind of like explains about like what his life had been like growing up as a Jewish person. And kind of, and the movie, I think, is pretty interested in like assimilation into society, for like how you can like get away with it when you're Jewish. Like Fred Trump literally like makes a remark to Paul when Paul says that the family name used to be like Graffinowitz or whatever, something more outwardly Jewish, and they switched their name to Graf so that they could, blend in. So it's a movie with a lot of like, I think like moralistic thoughts going on, but I do appreciate that it doesn't really let anyone off the hook at the end. Ultimately, the Johnny character is a bit of a plot device. It's still the Paul story. It's still the James Gray story. But I think with amazing production design, period detail, and of course Jeremy Strong and Anne Hathaway as Paul's parents, like it's still like really high level. And even if I think the conclusions might not be as 10 out of 10 like high minded as they might want to be, for like an autobiographical type like drama, like I think there's still a lot to like about it. Doesn't make you feel good too much, but it's a good movie.
It's a good look for Jeremy Strong. Last time we saw him was Trial of the Chicago 7, and he's going to be in Maestro next year. So he's getting
Mhm.
some big screen roles. Obviously, Succession's still his main vehicle, but I'm looking forward to seeing this one. Uh, Gray is a director that I think everybody should be bought into at this point. But if
Yep.
you're not, like, it sounds like this is a movie that can definitely win you some points. So let's keep it moving though. Dave, you talked about how Armageddon Time didn't really give you the good feels. Banshees of Inisherin, a little bit more of a mixed bag, I'd say, but definitely not a movie that I think many people walk away from with a big smile on their face. This is a big movie this year. Martin McDonagh's most recent movie, obviously the director of In Bruges and more notably Three Billboards a
Hmm.
few years back. Um, this is a movie that's getting a lot of acclaim. Is sitting at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, being talked about for awards. Obviously, you have Colin Farrell starring in this alongside Brendan Gleeson
Hmm.
and Carrie Condon. I think would be and Barry Keoghan, of course, our guy
Yep.
Barry. Um, this is a really impressive movie that I left and the drive home from the theater the whole time was like, that did not make me feel good at all. Not really one bit. And that's not what I expected. So I think my first reaction was, fuck that movie, man. Poor Jenny. I fucking need justice for Jenny.
Pour one out
But
for my guy Jenny.
yeah. But I think as I've sat with it more today, I'm just really like impressed with it overall. And I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to like digging more into it. But I just want to hear your initial like reactions after seeing it.
Yeah, I think going in knowing that it had a lot of acclaim, I was definitely hopeful. And first Martin McDonough movie since Three Billboards, you know, bit riding on that because Three
Mhm.
Billboards, despite its pluses, ultimately got a lot of criticism for kind of being like the foreigner's take on what's wrong with America. You
Yeah.
know, Francis McDormand's still great in it, but like it was a movie that like the premise of it, I think, started rubbing people the wrong way once we got deeper into award season. And Banshees of Inisherin, I think, is a lot closer to In Bruges, which also happens to star Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, and seems to be much more in sync with that Martin McDonough career path to this point, of course, of prolific uh, playwright as well. The Banshees of Inisherin as a title is not that far off from the what is it, the Cripple of Inishmin and the Lieutenant of Inishmore, which are two of his plays. So it definitely seems like this could have been a play at one time and probably would translate pretty easily to the stage as well. I did like it. I think you're right that it's a black comedy with some really strong like there's some really good humor in this, but it's also a movie that has like a lot of darkness, and you kind of like dwell and sit in that darkness in unexpected ways, and that's why I'm pretty happy with it, where it's just a really, I think, unconventional like story on its face, and it just doesn't do what I think it's gonna do. And when you have all this talent here too, like I think all the key performances are really strong, and it kind of just like kind of sets you up to sit with like its meaning, and doesn't really hold your hand with anything. And I definitely really respect it. And uh, I saw it in a decently full theater. I'd say there's probably like 40 people in there. And I don't know, the theater experience I think really elevated the humor for me. Like there were some like moments where like people were dying. Like there was this hilarious lines. Usually Colin Farrell as Podrick was really doling out some stuff with his earnestness and just saying things so matter of factly that you can't help but laugh. But yeah, overall, I liked it for its unexpected qualities.
Yeah, I thought the humor, at least I was dying laughing at a lot of it. I opened the show talking about no, just a regular good chat. Not an aimless chat, just regular good chat. That had really had me
Just
dying.
go to the pub and have a chats.
Yeah.
We always did.
um, but I thought the first half of this, the humor's great. And it really like keeps the movie going. Because I think if the tone of the second half of the movie were the tone throughout, this would have been a really tough watch.
Hmm.
Because the basically when Siobhan like decides like
Yeah,
she's gonna leave, and
Podrick's
then
sister.
Colm cuts the rest of his fingers off. The movie just takes a really dark turn at that point, and
Hmm.
it's this place that seemed so like picturesque, the whole time. I mean the panoramic shots and just like the way that McDonough shows this island off the coast of Ireland is like amazing and beautiful. And I think one of the comments that I really agree with, I've seen a lot of feedback about this movie, it's just like his filmmaking abilities just seem to like really like be growing, and his
Mm,
ability to
yeah.
like use the scenery and kind of setting is just really impressive. But this place that seems so picturesque just shifts into being like this prison. That conversation that Colum and Siobhan have about like, why are you doing this? Like, why'd you have to be so drastic cutting your fingers off? Are you depressed? And he
Mm,
kind of talks about how some days it feels like he's just like doing anything to like stop himself from actually like killing himself is kind of like the underlying. And he's like,
right.
don't you feel like that too? And Siobhan's like, no. And he's like, you do. And like just kind of like, it's kind of like said that like these people on this island, unless you are like Podrick, um you probably are realizing that you're kind of like stuck and
Yeah.
this is your life. And it's really like just shifts the movie completely. And I thought it was really effective. And
Hmm.
obviously then seeing the way that their relationship and Podrick's journey kind of tailspins from there is just gutting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to have like your lead protagonist played by Colin Farrell, to have Podrick be someone who's just like earnest and nice, but also just dim and simple as a
Hmm.
human, like it's like a really smart choice. Then you contrast that with Colm. Brendan Gleeson obviously has a lot of presence, but he's a character that is much more reserved, but is just completely lost in his like purpose in life. Whereas Podrick just has never been concerned with that. And I really like how that's all contrasted with the backdrop of the Irish Civil War, were taking place in 1923, rural village on this island off the coast. Inisherin is a fictional island, but Inisheer is a real island in off
Hmm.
Ireland. Don't know why the name was changed, but um, the fact that like the war is happening from the very first like few scenes where like there's explosions just right across the water, right on the coast, like the the shit's going down. But these people on the island, they don't give a fuck. Doesn't concern them at all. They're on the island, and like it's presented as like, oh, well, what a perk to be
Yeah.
above it all on this picturesque place. But then, like you said, it's actually presented as no, this is something that really reins in almost everyone that's here.
Hmm.
And I think to get to that point when our inciting incident in the movie is just that Colm just don't like you no more. Like that's how it starts.
Hmm.
But it's about so much more than that. And we get there in a unexpected way through some graphic ultra violence that really sneaks up on you. It's
Hmm.
I can't help but be pretty impressed.
There. I think the like metaphor of these two people, right, is something that a lot of people, I'd say more so adults, can relate to. Do you like cut out these parts of your life that don't feel like you're really like getting a lot out of it, or feel like you're benefiting from spending time with, or do you kind of like say fuck it, like life is short, and just kind of like enjoy the time you got no matter what that looks like? And I think, obviously for most people it's a balance. It's about the gray area, but these two characters identifying these extremes make the movie completely relatable right off the bat. And then you get the dynamic of the village people around them as their dynamic has shifted,
Mhm.
and like what it means for all of them. I love in the beginning when he's like, "Are you having a row?" I didn't think we were having a row. I think we're having a row.
I think we're having a row. Yeah, the
So
bartender's great. Uh,
amazing.
the policeman, you love to hate him. Of course, the father of
Yeah.
Barry Keown's character, Barry playing kind of the village like miscreant, just kind of doesn't have a whole lot of support at home. Obviously, his dad doesn't like him, but he also just doesn't really get up to much. Hasn't made much of his life kind of character.
Mhm.
Um, the other people in the bar, the fiddle players, the woman in town who's a gossip queen, like
Mhm.
they're small roles, small parts, but they're all really colored in nicely. And of course, you have the older woman playing the almost like literal like witch, like demon banshee figure who
Yeah.
has just some hilarious like drop-ins. Like I was loving everything with her.
Me too. I mean, I've seen some people be lukewarm on her. I thought she was great. I love
So
when
funny.
he's like, "That's not a very nice thing to say," and she's like, "I wasn't trying to be nice. I was trying to be accurate." I was like, "Yes, I love this. Amazing line." Also, you didn't even mention my favorite like supporting character, which is the priest. I feel like
Oh,
everything with the priest was just like
so good.
fucking hysterical.
Cursing and confession. Can't beat it, man.
He kicks Column out of confession, doesn't let him actually like get absolved of his sins. Amazing move. Love that. Um yeah, that was great. Um yeah, I mean all the supporting characters are fantastic, and I really love how you have like all these guys, and then really like the only woman that really gets like any kind of media role at all is
Mm,
Carrie Condon Siobhan,
yep.
Podrick's sister. And I think her journey throughout the movie is so like essential, as like it kind of what we talked about, how most people are kind of this like middle of the road between these two characters, right? Because Siobhan is someone who, when Podrick's like, "Why don't you come down and have a sherry?" Like she lights up. She's like so excited, like, what, yeah, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go have like a good time with you, have a drink. And then there's also obviously her desire to have a career and to
Hmm.
like have more to her life than just this island. And she ends up pursuing that, even though her leaving is completely gutting. Like I
Right.
think that role and the way that again that conversation between her and Column, where she's like, all of this is silly, like everything that you're doing is like ridiculous and just boys like killing time, you're not actually doing anything anyway. And like how she calls him out for like not knowing when Mozart is, like she gets so many like awesome little like lines and gets so many like great moments. I really came away with like loving Carrie Condon's performance in this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, she's great, and the Siobhan role is written. It's much stronger than just the maternalistic figure to our lead character.
Mhm.
She has real substance in her own arc, which is great. And Barry Keoghan as the other big
Yeah,
supporting character. I mean, he's just a beast at playing like fucking weirdos now. Like I love him, dude. He's so great,
so good.
and obviously this is an all-star Irish cast from an Irish filmmaker. Of course he's here. It makes
Hmm.
all the sense in the world, and I'm really happy that he's going to get a lot of shine with this because you know it has probably hasn't happened yet, but we're going to see like some really big stuff from him. I have no doubt. Um, and I really loved everything about him. Some of the humor, like early on when he's just like haplessly hitting on Siobhan, he has no idea what to say
Hmm.
or what to do, or can't pick up on any social cue at all from her. She's trying to let him down easy. That stuff is great. But even just like the more humorous stuff too, where he's just like bouncing off Podrick, and he like genuinely feels betrayed when he realizes that Podrick was starting to escalate and like get
Hmm.
more mean about stuff. That's why he got mad because Podrick was being mean about it. Um, you mentioned Jenny at the beginning, but like the animals between Podrick's pony and Colm's dog,
Yeah.
they both actually have like big parts in their
Hmm.
own way, which you wouldn't expect from animal characters, quote unquote, in a film. Like starts off, Jenny is just some really great humor. when
Mm,
Podrick likes to let the pony inside, and Siobhan's like, "What the fuck are we doing? Why is the animal in the house?"
yeah.
And Podrick's referencing about what he can find in the pony shit and how interesting it can be. But then where we end up with the pony and with the dog to a lesser extent too.
Donkey,
It's
by the way.
donkey. Sorry. Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. He mentions he has a pony early on, but Jenny
Yeah.
is a donkey. You're right.
Little donkey.
Yep. Like where we get to with the animals also quite surprised me.
Yeah, and I think what like the animals represent for this island where there's like you don't see any children, right? So I think that's a very intentional decision in this. I mean, Dominic is probably the youngest person you see throughout the movie. Maybe some of the other people in the bar from time to time. I can't remember
Right.
if like when they go to the docks, maybe there's some running around. But anyways, these animals are supposed to represent like this like their children basically, and even when Podrick is like, all right, like 2 o'clock tomorrow, I'm gonna come burn your fucking house down. He takes the dog, he takes care of the dog, and that being like this like point on where their relationship is left off at the end. That conversation on the beach is so like pointed, but there's obviously like something fractured about that relationship that could never be the same. But that like anytime when he's like, thanks for watching my dog, it's just such a like a bit of an uplift. It's like you kind of needed that, because if the movie just ends with him being like, some things are like irreparably changed and
Mhm.
like it's probably better that way, it's like,
Or
oh
he
my
like
fucking,
slits his throat or something,
oh
you
my
know.
god, it's like holy shit, like this all could have been like just so heavy. But I thought it's a nice like kind of light at the end of the tunnel in a way.
Hmm.
um yeah, I really like I said, I've just kind of been impressed with this. It's a movie that I think I had to be in a very specific mood to go back to, just because it is pretty heavy and like uh definitely um didn't leave me feeling very good afterwards. But I mean, there's some performances in here that I think are probably going to get nominated. At least I think Farrell seems like a lock to get a nomination, right?
I agree. Yeah, he's definitely the most bankable for best actor. Best actor is still pretty tight, but I wouldn't bank on the win, at least not yet. But I mean, I'm very happy to see this from Colin Farrell because we've talked about it honestly quite a bit, but he's really come into his own, partially as a character actor, but also just as someone who's making great choices and just seems like at peak of powers these days, where he is constantly one of, if not the best performance on screen in like everything he's in the past like 5-10 years. It feels like, even in like direct like Fantastic Beasts, he's like elevating it as best he can. He's been really crushing it. But and like this year too, after Yang and Banshees of Inisherin, talking about a big year for him.
And you
Really
didn't
happy
even
to see that.
mention his best role, the Batman, dog.
Of course,
The Penguin.
I loved him as the Penguin. He was
He's
great.
great and unrecognizable. Do you think Gleason gets a nomination for this?
I have to like brush up on the supporting race, but he's definitely in the mix for sure. Again, McDonough got a lot of nominations last time around. Was quite celebrated in 2017, so I'd have to imagine to a certain degree that'll continue. This also is a Searchlight release, so this will have a lot of push behind it when the time comes. So, and of course, I think Brendan Gleeson, he's not nearly as famous as Colin Farrell, not even close, but he's always someone that when he's in American films, he really, I think, makes an impression. Of course, most populously would be Harry Potter, but he's been in obviously loads of things for decades at this point, and I think that would also be quite the nod to him after a storied career to this point to get a nomination too.
I think when award season comes around, I'll be riding to get that Carrie Condon supporting actress nom.
Mhm.
But I think if there's one other nomination that I think feels pretty safe from this movie, I mean, McDonough would probably be a good call, but also cinematography. I think this will
Yeah.
be up there. It's just so gorgeous. That opening shot where they're like going over the field and you see like all the like walls and delineations of the property, I thought was just amazing. So
Yeah. I think more than anything, McDonough is probably safest for his writing. I think screenplay is probably the best individual quality of this movie is that unconventional screenplay. So I'd probably bank on that first. Best director, maybe not as likely, but would certainly be well earned for original screenplay.
absolutely. Dave, any last thoughts on Banshees of Inisherin?
Definitely see it. I think
Yeah,
I mean, it's unique and
yeah.
has a lot of things to like about it. So
I think
definitely
this
worth
is
people's time.
think this is gonna be one of those movies that people don't see in theaters when that Christmas like lull comes around. A lot of people are gonna be watching it at home with their families, and they get
Yeah,
quite the surprise when they're like, post Christmas. Oh, let's watch a movie together, and then
dripping.
yeah. Anyways, we're gonna shift gears into the music realm with our guys, Phoenix. They're back after 5 years. Dave, we talked about TMO back in 2017. That was like early pod days. That was like when we
Yeah,
first started doing
year two,
video, I
first
think.
video year, back in the day.
Crazy. And now they're back. And Dave, are you happy to have Phoenix back?
Honestly, yes. Shout out the nation of France giving us Phoenix because I thought Alpha Zulu was good.
Yeah,
I thought it
I
was
thought
real
it was
good.
really good.
you know,
TMO was a bit of I don't want to say letdown, but it just was like I don't know. It felt
shift.
yeah, it felt it was a shift. It felt a little listless. It felt a way more poppy than anything we had gotten from them. So it was like, huh, how are we making sense of this? And Alpha Zulu, I think, is them really coming into their own with this. I think it should be like noted that it seems like they had some really strong collaborators on this, and one of them is in one of the songs, Ezra Koenig. But they really just seem to be kind of pulling in this new poppier, dancier sound with like some classical Phoenix guitars and drums, and it feels very familiar but also like fun and exciting.
Yeah.
So I found this to be a really enjoyable album. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed a rock album, Dave, especially after you skewered the Backseat Lovers last week. Tell me what you liked about Alpha Zulu.
Well, I think this is Phoenix, which I know the hits like Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix. That sound from them, their breakout album, like 1901, Listomania. People know those hits, but like that's the kind of like indie music that I've always liked the most when it comes to indie music. I like the indie pop stuff more than the indie rock stuff, and Alpha Zulu just really felt like the indie pop that I like. Sounded like it, and it's a brisk 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
honestly, I thought every song was good. Like I quite enjoyed it. I think a big part of that is per most of my indie opinions, I love the tempo on Alpha Zulu. Um, they keep it moving, but the songs are almost always quite lively. And Thomas Mars, he just is a fun vocalist as well, which I think is a big part of me liking indie music. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think it starts right off from the title track in the
Yeah.
first song, Alpha Zulu, where you have those like kind of like spacey, chilly, like synth drums coming in, and then just like the overall like vibe of the song kind of remains that chilliness, but you have just Phoenix like with these amazing not only vocals but like their like shared like energy in the song really comes through, especially in the second half. I felt like, and it's a catchy tune, like "Hoo ha, singing
Yeah,
hallelujah," like
fun vocals for sure.
yeah, totally gets you right off the bat. And then probably my favorite song on the album, unsurprising, is the second song, Tonight, with
Yeah.
Ezra Koenig, which feels like Phoenix and like the newest version of Vampire Weekend made a baby together. And it was just everything I wanted in.
Father of the Zulu bride.
There you go. Nailed it. Um yeah, I just really enjoyed that, and I think it just elevated them, and I hope they do more collaborations together because I feel like there's a lot more there to dig into. The drum build up on that leading up to the chorus is so fun, and then it just has like this classical like Phoenix guitar riff in the chorus, but also like the like funky bass of the Father of the Bride from Vampire Weekend. Just really great. So those two right off the bat caught me. But tell me about the songs that you enjoyed on this.
I like those two songs quite a bit as well. And I thought Alpha Zulu title track starting you right off. It's like oh cool. Tempo,
Yeah.
bass, let's go. Love it. Um I think Ezra sounds great on Tonight. It's like
Mhm.
awesome like vocal pairing there when he comes in on the back half of the song. Um I also quite liked Artifact and Winter Solstice. That one has some slower moments, but I really like the way the song kind of builds itself back up towards the end. Really still brought me back around. Um, yeah, I think just overall, like The tempo is really consistent in a good way. Um,
Yeah,
Identical was actually a song I had heard before because it had released like 2 years ago in
Oh.
a shorter version because it was on the soundtrack to the Sofia Coppola movie On the Rocks. Sofia Coppola, of course, the partner of Thomas Mars. So Identical actually came out a few more minutes tacked on, added to the end of this track list. Funny enough. But I think more than anything, I was like, wow, like to hear the seventh album from a band that's been going for over 20 years and to actually like be this satisfied, it's
Mhm.
pretty rare, you know?
Definitely pretty rare. I just wanted to say, great call on Artifact. I really love just like like Cynthy's guitar on that is really great, and I think they like have the best Phoenix like guitar riffs on that are just like so like short and concise, but like fit perfectly to the song. I really liked After Midnight, the song before Winter Solstice, a lot. Thought that one was really like zippy and fun. Reminded me of a lot like List of Many in a way. So I thought
Mhm.
that's probably why I really enjoyed it. Overall, I agree with you. I think this album just is great start to finish and it's quick listen. So people should check it out. We'll be adding a song to our Spotify playlist, Nostalgia Best of 2022. Um, we're also going to be putting a song from Joji on there. He dropped his newest album, Smithereens. Been 2 years since we last listened to a Joji album with Nectar. You know, Joji's interesting because his rise, I think, wasn't something a lot of people would have expected, especially given his like personality before
Mm.
he really like
Yeah.
dove into music.
YouTube roots, Filthy Frank.
And I watched him perform live at Coachella this past year. You know how they stream all the concerts. His live singing still not very good, but he makes great albums and great songs. So I think he's the kind of artist I probably wouldn't go see live, but I'll just enjoy the albums for that
The
reason.
studio recordings, though.
And yeah, the studio recordings are great. And Dave, I'm wondering if you felt like that continued on Smithereens.
Yeah, I mean, Smithereens. It's so quick. You know what is it? 25 minutes. Like
Yeah.
album three from him, and I don't know if it necessarily like changed my opinion on Joji at all, but it's just like more proof, more evidence that he is a fully fledged artist and really knows his way around some of the more ballady song constructions. Lest we forget in 2020, when Nectar came out, his second album, one of the lead singles on that, Run, we both really loved. I had that on
Mhm.
my top five songs of 2020. And he basically came up with a similar song this time around with the lead single, Glimpse of Us, which is just a straight up, piano ballad, sung piano ballad, which happened to debut at number 10 and peak at number 8 in the country. Like, how the hell did that happen? Like,
Eh,
obviously TikTok happened, but like, it's still wild to me that like TikTok propelled a Joji piano ballad to, let's see, 600 million streams at time of
It's
recording.
incredible.
Like, obviously good for him, but I think the music. It sounds like the rest of his music's been sounding, which is good. I think I'm more interested in him when I think the vocals can be a bit more lively. I think a song like Night Rider stands out to me. Even a song like Yukon Interlude off
Mm.
Smithereens here. There's that vocal melody with the all white truck part where it's like, that's like a really nice touch from Joji here. And I think like that's probably like my favorite thing about him these days, where like he there's just something kind of about his vocals, not only his studio vocals, as you said, but there's something about like those Joji vocals that can kind of, I think, take you by surprise because he comes across as so much more polished than his career arc would suggest, as I
Mhm.
think most people would know at this point.
Yeah, you know, I think for me, I actually was left kind of questioning where his vocals have kind of gone to, right? It feels like since like Slow Dancing in the Dark, we haven't
Hmm.
really gotten a song where he's like really showing out on the high range of his abilities. And
Yeah.
that might be intentional. You know, maybe he is thinking about like how are these going to sound live? Do I really want to put myself in a position where I can't necessarily like replicate these? I don't know. But it feels like we get some moments on Smithereens where he could have easily like had one of those really like high flying moments in a song, like a great switch up or beat drop. and he always kind of pulls back. And Smithereens feels a little bit more contained,
Yeah.
um, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely left me feeling like, where's the Joji that that we had a few years back in 2017?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have like a "Gimme Love" on
Yeah.
this or a "Yeah Right." "Gimme Love" a much more, I think, up tempo, as poppy as Joji can probably sound, and "Yeah Right" much more electronic production. You don't really have that on this. You don't have like Modus off Nectar, which has like a really sticky melody in the chorus in a
Hmm.
fun way. Like you don't really have that. This is a lot more like stripped down, like vocals first kind of music. And he's a good enough singer to pull it off. But I think part of it, like Glimpse of Us, kind of like maybe like set the table for this. But like
Yeah.
I prefer, I think, Run, which just has, I think, a bit bigger of a
Yeah.
high than Glimpse of Us. It's Slow Dancing in the Dark, same kind of thought, where, Glimpse of Us perhaps just kind of push Joji in this direction,
Yeah.
to really get into the singing bag, as it were, here. Obviously, no shade, no worries there. He's made plenty of good songs already. Funny enough, when I was on vacation in out west, I saw someone, like a teenage girl, in a Smithereens Joji shirt or a sweatshirt.
Wow.
Yeah,
She was
I
on it.
believe I believe the tour. She must have went on tour because the tour had just started, and I was like, wow, Joji merch in the wild. Shout out Joji, man.
Yeah, he's come a long way. Um, yeah, I agree with you. You kind of called out Knight Rider, which is one of the ones that really stood out to me. Really love the like way you can just ride on that. That feels like a song that I could see sampled in, for like a rap song in the future type of thing.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think I even like the second song, feeling like the end. Those beginning keys remind me of the like social network music where it's like
Oh.
boom boom boom. Like I don't know why. I always just kind of then want him to like write a song over the social network music for some reason. Just feels
Wow.
like the right guy for it.
That's a TikTok waiting to happen, man. Make one.
Yeah, if only I could figure it out. I'm too old for that. You're the TikTok person, Dave.
At
Um,
Nowstalgia Pod on
Follow
TikTok.
us. Um, yeah, I think like when he goes a little bit more into the actual sound of the song, like when he relies on the ballads, like and just his vocals, like before the day is over, I really found myself not quite jiving with the music. But things like 1 a.m. freestyle, even near the end, that piano is pretty great. You get him harmonizing with himself a little bit, which sounds really nice. Get some like cool percussion moments. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for with Joji because he has such a distinct sound. I want to see him like continue to push it further. You mentioned how we don't get a moment like Run. We don't get any like big guitars on this. It's all pretty
Mm-mm.
stripped back. So I hope that this is just kind of the direction he was going for this particular album, and we'll get some more of those moments in the future. But if this is like Joji's like stripped back album, it's still really good.
Yeah. I mean, he recently announced that in 2023 he's doing a show at Madison Square Garden and a show at the Forum in LA. Those are some big venues
Yeah.
for anyone in 88 Rising. Like, I think it's pretty clear that Joji is like the biggest artist on 88 at this point. But to do even one show at MSG,
Hmm.
you, the music you make, you're doing a show at MSG. That's wild. That's
Great for
amazing
him,
for
man.
him.
I'm excited for that. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
get tickets. We'll see how much they are. Any last thoughts on this though? You ready to get to our guys?
Yep.
Let's do it. Time to talk about Her Loss, the newest album from Drake and 21 Savage. They've collaborated together quite a few times now. We've heard a lot more from Drake recently than 21.
Yep.
Honestly, never mind dropping earlier this year.
Yeah. Less than
God,
6 months ago, five
an
months ago.
album an album I try not to think about much because a really unsuccessful foray into rock music, I guess, for Drake, right?
Electronic music. I wouldn't say
Electronic,
rock
yeah,
music.
right.
Yeah.
Electronic.
House,
um
Jersey Club specifically.
yes, thank you. And so Drake is back rapidy rapping on this, and
Damn right.
it's nice to have him back. Not gonna lie, I'd prefer this Drake 100 times out of 100 to honestly never mind. But this album's getting a lot of attention, Dave, for some not so good reasons. So we got to get into
That's
that
true.
too.
We'll get into that. Yep.
Why don't we start though first with, is the music there on Her Loss?
I say definitely. I think the music is definitely here, and it is. Drake has not sound this refreshed, this lively, this just straight up fun in several records. Like I like this way more than Certified Lover Boy, like
Oh yeah.
easily. You know, Dark Lane demo tapes, obviously, and I think you got to go all the way back to like More Life.
Wow.
I think we're going that far back. You know, do we have the highs of Scorpion on this? No, no God's Plan, no Nice for What, no In My Feelings. That being said, I think that Her Loss is a better record than Scorpion overall,
Mhm.
and it's not that it's without fault, without bloat. It's still an hour long, but I mean, it's the best Drake sounded in quite some time, and man, like it really like I think I'm even more hyped about it because the fact that we got Honestly Nevermind 5 months ago. Drake, to his credit, taking a swing and doing something completely different. An artist who's played it safe for so long. The fact that he tried something like that, we said this at the time, is still commendable given his station. But I think vocally, songwriting wise, he just wasn't really up to snuff to match that. And of course, then when you get the Beyonce record doing that in a genuine and convincing manner, it was over for that record. However, as everyone knows, the biggest hit of Honestly Nevermind, the last track, was Jimmy Cook's, which was not a house song at all. That was a trap song featuring 21 Savage, someone Drake has made many great songs with already at this point. And the fact that they're like, you know what? Let's just make an album together and release it this year. How nice. How great. Um, and yeah, I think there's a lot of bangers, a lot of fun stuff on this. But I think Drake, he just feels and sounds so much more refreshed. His writing is, for the most part, much stronger and more interesting on Her Loss, even if this might be like a quote simpler record. But I'd rather listen to this than Drake at his moodiest, like on Views or something, you know? Like this is, I think, like the ideal of what you'd want from Drake in his mid 30s.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is uh definitely a bit of a return to form for Drake. I think there's a few songs on here that are just absolutely fantastic and, make me excited to hear him again. And I feel like having 21, it seems to really have inspired him, and they play off each other so
Yeah,
well.
amazing chemistry. It's just as simple as that.
And it just feels like 21 is like, is there anything this guy can't do for rap right now? Like, he's got to be one of the most surprising biggest stars, because you think about like the first couple times he really like broke out, some of
Yeah,
those like
Savage
earlier
Mode
hits.
1 back in the day.
You're kind of like, all right, like this guy's like pretty cool, a bit one note, like
Yeah.
he'll be around and like kind of be like Pusha T, like drop in, like really just like do his thing really well.
Slaughter gang shit, murder gang shit.
On this, I was really impressed with like his ability to like switch things up a bit. Like some of the sound we get from him are things we've really never heard him doing in terms of like tone on a song, even like cadence in terms of some of his rapping. It was like, okay, 21 also like busting out, but just his ability to even like invigorate some of these stars and really like bring out the best.
Yeah.
I loved the line that was like, um, I forgot exactly which song it was on, but it was something like, uh, I feature on your song "Make It My Own" or something like that, and
Hmm.
then Drake comes in and is like, "I have you feature on a song, make the record think they need you," and I was like, "Ooh, okay." Like I like the back and forth, and like I
Yeah.
appreciate the
There's
flexes
some
from
great
both of
moments
them.
like that.
Yeah, they have a great back and forth.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it, I think this is a pretty easy take at this point, but like Drake and 21 Savage through their many high profile collabs, you know, Mr. Right Now, Knife Talk, Jimmy Cooks, Sneakin', unreleased song Issa, and now this record, they have more chemistry and make more sense together than Drake and Future ever did. And Drake and Future, of course, made a whole album together. What a time to be alive. But this is just so much more successful because they really just fit each other so well. It's still a Drake first record. You know, like
oh yeah,
21 doesn't have equal time or anything. He's much clearly in support of Drizzy on this. But I think it's all right because it's not that 21 like needs this look, like you said, he's doing things we haven't heard before, but 21 has also come so far with those last few records, I'm Greater Than I Was and Savage Mode
mhm,
2, of course. Like he has gotten to like as close as he probably can to rap stardom and through these unceremonious beginnings in Atlanta rap. And now at this point, the fact that he can just like play like second fiddle to Drake, but do it better than like almost anyone ever has. Like, I think it's honestly another like feather in 21's cap. You know, like he's already been a great feature artist for so long now. People have talked about how far he's come. We've all known that. But the fact that he can like really like match Drake and get Drake to really buy in as much as he did as well, which we know hasn't always been, a sure thing with Drake these days, right? Drake has been prone to play it safe and just chill out because he's Drake and he'll be successful no matter what. But on this, I think they really brought the most out of each other, and that's what makes it so fun. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
completely agree. And just to kind of highlight that, to clean up the line I was talking about before is on BS, which I think is maybe one of my favorite like songs where they go back and forth
good
trading
one. Yep.
bars, and interplaying together, right? 21 says, "I jump on your song and make you sound like you the feature," and then Drake just jumps in so seamlessly with, "I jump on your song, make a label think they need you," and it's just like
Mm,
it's so beautifully delivered. Like they really like glide around each other so well, and it's
yeah.
like it's just them both flexing and just feeling so confident and like light. Like that song, they really just seem so happy. And those first three songs, Rich Flex, Major Distribution on BS, like absolute
Mm,
heaters to open. Rich Flex, probably my favorite
yeah.
song on the album, I'd say.
21, can you do some for me?
So good. So good, man. I
But
mean,
then
like,
that song, like already super catchy from Drake in the beginning, right? Then that song has a huge beat flip, and
mhm.
and like it picks back up, and Drake is like super energized and like really like in his rapping bag with all these like acronym rhymes, and like I was like sitting there like listening, I was like, holy shit, you haven't got Drake
Mhm.
like this about it in quite some time, and that was track one. I was like, oh my god, this is so refreshing. I love it. And then, yeah, right off the bat, after that, track two, major distribution, which I love. I think the first line, major distribution labels on my dick for real, hilarious to hear. But later on, kind of what you had been getting at before with the chemistry between 21 and Drake. Drake starts it off in his verse. Major distribution labels call me Bad Bunny, this a robbery. 500 million just for Aubrey. Later on, 21, Harry Styles numbers, it's a robbery. My dudes go insane to catch a body. I was like, let's fucking go. That's
Yeah.
amazing wordplay.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, I think probably the single like most celebrated line would be on Treacherous Twins, where 21, of course, gets you hard with I don't show ID at the club because they know that I'm 21,
Mhm.
which honestly I was levitating when I heard that. Like, and I think so. I saw some people pushing back on that. It's like, oh, that's a simple line, just some simple double meaning. What's the big deal? It's like, no, you don't get it. Like 21 Savage has been at it for 7 years now. He's been at a long career. The fact that it took us this long to hear that line from him makes
Mhm.
it that much more better. It's like when Pusha T blows your mind with a new way to talk about selling coke. Like it just hit so hard, I think, because of like how simple and how long it had been to hear something like that from him. Like honestly, that's like my favorite bar of the year, I think.
Well, and he could, like you said, he could have said that when he first came up. Like he probably had that written for a long time, but to do it now when he actually is established, I mean, he's on an album with fucking Drake, like the best-selling rapper of all
Yeah,
time. At this point, it's like, yeah, this is a time when you can drop a line like that, and it means a lot more than it would have when he was actually like just turned 21. Treacherous Twins, by the way, another like
that's
awesome
my
track.
that's my number one. I think I
That's your
love
number
that
one.
one. Yeah,
Um,
because like that's melodic Drake. Like Drake doesn't just rap his ass off. He also gets into the other side of his what makes him great. Which is his versatility. And that's a song where Drake is much more melodic. I think in a really fun way. My treacherous little twin. You know that we going in like, and then of
mhm,
course 21 jumps in and he's like it's just such a different vibe, but it works so well together. I think some of the slower moments on this record, like Hours in Silence, that one's a little too slow. Don't really like that one, but
yeah.
like the fact that I think he was able to really nail both melodic Drake and like trapping Drake too on this with 21 in both camps, like I think, man, I'm just so pleased with just how much there is on like offer from Drake on this one. Like I don't have to go in and like convince myself that like one of those, you know, Drake sitting there musing about how terrible his life is songs is kind of good and thoughtful. It's like, no, I don't have to worry about that this time, you know? But if I did, you still got Middle of the Ocean, which is pretty good too.
I was about to say, I really liked Middle of the Ocean. First of all, feels like an Action Bronson song that Drake just is like, okay, I'm gonna make an Action
Uh,
Bronson song. Really hits. We get a fucking Robert Kraft line in this. Like he got me private jet. That's patriotic. Okay. All right, sure. I'll take it.
he-
It's a little corny, but I'll take it.
it's like it's
And
part of Drake's brand is to be corny at times too.
exactly. And honestly, I thought he sounded like kind of like old school Drake on that, which I appreciated.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I mean, there's a couple of duds for me. You mentioned Hours in Silence, like just get that off this album. Circo Loco, which I mean we should talk about for the Meg line, but overall, like taking one more time, slowing it down like that, just kind of takes
Yeah.
the fun out of it for me. Like, it just didn't need it, and I thought Drake singing on that was just like horrid, like just
Yeah.
terrible.
I think like I actually don't mind the sample. Obviously, it's a big swing to sample Daft Punk period, but especially in this high profile of a manner. And it's like, huh, this is like a interesting idea. I think if the rest of the song was a bit more interesting, maybe could have worked. Obviously, like you're never touching Kanye when it comes to sampling Daft Punk. We know this, but like I think there was actually like something to like a stripped down, chopped and screwed Daft Punk sample, but this doesn't really come together, and that's before you factor in the Meg line. Um,
Yeah, what were your thoughts on the Meg line while we're here?
yeah. So what's he say? He says, uh, girls or hoes lying about their shots, something like a stallion or whatever. You had little Yachty coming out of the woodwork carrying some water, saying that Drake was just talking about girls that lie about the fact that they have ass shots in their butt. And of course, stallion is more of a general term for like bigger, tall women. And it's like, you know what? That all sounds true and correct. But the fact that there is double meaning with this because of everything that's happened with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez is why someone as good of a writer as Drake should not have one of these lines. Because even if that was not your intention at all, surely you're not that stupid to think that people can't read between the lines on the line.
Hmm.
It's just uh, we've talked about this when Meg's Traumazine came out. Like we need to let this go and let one of the most exciting new talents in rap just continue her career. And
Hmm.
we don't need throwaway bars from Drake of all people to be making fun of that situation in any way. It's just really in poor taste.
Well, and just to like hammer home what you're saying more, the line is actually this bitch lie about getting shots, but she a stallion.
Yeah.
So it's implying that like Meg was playing this up, potentially lying about it in some way. She got fucking shot. Like I just think I don't even know.
Drake also used to hate Tory Lanez because
Like
Tory Lanez is from Canada and used to be Diet Drake and still basically is. Like, come on, man.
just feels like a misstep for whatever reason. I don't know. And then the next song you get Travis Scott, which was almost like a little jarring to see him. I feel like we
Yeah,
haven't really gotten
I
much
don't
of
mind
him.
that quite as much. Like, he will be back, you
Yeah.
know?
What'd you think of that song?
It's all right. I actually thought Travis like kind of fits this production fine,
Yeah.
but it's not my favorite like Drake or 21 on the album is all. Um,
Anything on
yeah,
the back half that you really liked?
yeah. I thought Jumbotron Shit Poppin', which is Drake only. I like that one from Drake.
Jumbo shit poppin'. I like that one more.
And then second to last song, you got 3 a.m. on Glenwood. Another entry in the AM PM series from Drake, which is storied, of course, except it's not Drake now. It's 21 only. And 21 doing one of the classic Drake storytelling songs. What a nice gesture from Drake to give a song, one of the AM PM songs to 21. I thought that like really warmed my heart. And like Drake isn't just like this has been clear for a while at 21, but like Drake isn't just like riding the new young guy who's got a new spin on hip hop that Drake can take some stuff and propel himself forward. We've known Drake's done that before. He's not doing this with 21, but like that's like a really genuine thing I think to do on a Drake record is to give an AM/PM song to your collaborator.
Yeah, no, I thought that was nice too, and I thought 21 did all right with that. Wasn't a song that I was like, oh, gonna be going back to this one the most off of it, but definitely decent. I think overall, just like very happy to see this album turn out the way it did. Especially with what we've gotten from Drake recently, felt like this could have gone a lot worse. So good to see him back in form.
Yeah. He also Drake did like make a reference to Dram and Cha
That's
Cha being ripped off with Hotline Bling, and Dram posted a video about it, being like, "Bro, this was like so long ago," which is kind of my take on this too. Like, why are you punching down on Dram? Like, come on, guy, you already stole the song. You got away with it. Let's
yeah,
move on here. That was like 5 albums ago.
yeah. I don't know. Um, any last thoughts? Are you ready to get to some Grammys?
Drake is not submitting, honestly, never mind, to the Grammys. Of course, her loss isn't eligible yet, but I think the Grammys will be all right without his music this time around.
Dave, next Tuesday, November 15th, the 2023 Grammy Award nominations will be released. And so it's time to do one of our favorite things, which is try to predict one of the most unpredictable but also predictable award shows out there, the Grammys. There's a lot to get into here. We're going to
Yep.
cover some of the major categories: album, record, song of the year, best new artist, maybe a couple others as well. But I just want to start. I think all the the time was from like last October to the end of this September.
Yep.
So
October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. That's exactly right, Pat. So you got some albums that seem a little old that are still eligible for this Grammys, like Adele's record, of course. Then you had some albums that came out in the last month that are not this Grammy period, such as Taylor Swift's Midnights. But
and
still
so
plenty of big names, of course, with this Grammy period for 2023.
a ton of big names here. Um, I think like my first question just becomes like, do we just pencil Adele and Beyonce into every category, pretty much,
I think so, honestly.
right?
Um, I think so. And this is obviously a repeat of last time around when they both dropped albums. They both dropped a huge hit record, Lemonade and what's Adele's last album called? 25. Whatever,
27.
whatever age it was, and of course they went head to head, and now they're literally doing it again. you know, and shout out Taylor. Releasing Midnights just after the Grammy period turned because she knew she didn't want none of this, and she could just wait till next year when she had way less competition. Honestly, smart game, smart move.
Yeah, absolutely. Because not only are we getting Adele and Beyonce this year, but Kendrick Lamar.
Yep,
As much as I hate to say it, Harry Styles, who I'm
yep.
sure will be getting a lot of love at
Bad
these.
Bunny.
Yeah, I mean, how to even go this long without mentioning Bad Bunny? Um, and then we also have a couple of people that most likely deserve to be up there and possibly have the album of the year, but aren't going to get that recognition. Someone like Rosalia or Steve Lacy. So there's a lot of people to get into here. The locks at the top: Adele and Beyonce for album of the year. But after that, who would you say is like a surefire lock?
Kendrick, Harry, Bunny. I think we're finally to the point where, through sheer force of popularity, Bad Bunny is now going to be in the main Grammy categories and not just relegated to the Latin genre categories. We've talked about this the past few years. The Grammys were ignoring the globalism of music, not just with reggaeton, but also stuff like Afrobeat with Burna Boy. Bad Bunny having the biggest tour of the year, the biggest album of the summer by far, is gonna eventually have like 6 songs off Un Verano Sin Ti, hit 1 billion streams on Spotify. Like, he can't be any bigger. And now they will no longer ignore him, thankfully. And obviously very happy to see that. It is a bit of a history making thing. Unfortunate for Bad Bunny, he's going up in the same year as Beyonce and Adele, so thanks for playing. But I do feel confident he will be an album of the year.
And we should mention, the red version of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's red version is coming out, or Red Taylor's version, I'm sorry, is coming out, or it will be in this Grammy thing.
Right.
I don't know how they're really going to approach that. All Too Well was the 10-minute version was a huge moment off that, but since it's a redoing of these songs, a reimagining of these songs, I can't imagine that they're going to nominate it, but man,
Yeah.
it's in play, potentially.
It's definitely in play. And for this Grammys, the 2023 Grammys, they actually switched the eligibility where it went from 50% to 75% of an album has to be newly recorded music to be eligible to be nominated. And that was really designed to get rid of like deluxe reissues having another bite at the apple and getting nominated. You like the Black Pumas, this happened with them. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what that's going for. Taylor did technically re-record most of the music. It's kind of annoying to me. Like it's not even any shots at like how well that was done, but like it's a re-released record. We don't need to nominate it again. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter who made it. If you want to nominate All Too Well 10-minute version in like song or record, I have less issue with that because it's a complete rework of the song and actually like made the song more celebrated than it ever was in its original form. I think that's much more agreeable. But hey, you can't rule out the album getting in there, right? But then again, I'm assuming it's submitted. We don't know all the details on yet in terms of what artists and labels submitted what. We know The Weeknd and Drake aren't submitting their stuff, so they're out of the picture. But yeah, the Taylor stuff is in play, which is a bit odd just because it's unusual to have something like this happen.
Completely agree. It's gonna be interesting to see how they handle it. They are adding a category for like best songwriting, so maybe that will be a way to kind of give Taylor her flowers, but not have to, have the have the whole album be recognized. Um, yeah, so I agree with you. I think going back to it, Adele, Beyonce, Kendrick, and Bad Bunny seemed like surefire locks. Harry as well.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
5 right there, but you still have plenty of other options.
I would love to see Rosalia get in there as well as Steve Lacy. Those are the two I think I'm riding most for to get those other spots. What about you?
Yep, I mean those would be awesome for sure. I'm hoping Steve at least gets some love in like song or record for Bad Habit. You would assume.
Hmm.
Um, I think the rest of album of the year is kind of interesting for the ways they could go. It would really signify like major change in the Recording Academy if Rosalia also get in, right? Motomami, well liked, popular from who heard it, and not that it was a tiny album, but not obviously on the stratosphere of Bad Bunny, which just became mainstream and normal,
Hmm.
and standard bearing on the radio. Rosalia wasn't that, but it was a really amazing record, which I'd love to see here. I think you really can't overlook some of the more usual suspects, as it were, for categories like this at the Grammys. In play, we have albums from Coldplay and Post Malone and Lizzo and Ed Sheeran and Brandy Carlisle and ABBA's comeback album. Not to mention Phineas, who has a lot of Grammy love and attention due to his sister. Like
Hmm.
I saw some predicting sites noting the Encanto soundtrack. Lin-Manuel Miranda, of course, very famous with awards bodies by by now. Um, Even something perhaps less celebrated, like Burna Boy and Anita. Like there's actually quite a bit of choice here. I'm just kind of curious where they go because there always are like some kind of less mainstream picks, like a John Baptiste or something.
Yeah, I if I had to like actually put money down on this, it feels pretty safe to me that Lizzo will probably get nominated. They want that star power. They want that, performance, and just her persona in general. I think to be there. Brandy Carlisle's interesting. We haven't listened to that album. I've heard it's good. She's an artist that like I kind of wrote off. I feel like a long time ago,
Mm,
and just
yeah.
continues to put out really great work. And I should probably dive deeper into her. And then we get a little further down. It's like Elton John. This is like a collaboration album, and I could see them wanting to just kind of give him some shine. I imagine there will be some sort of like performance at the Grammys where they have all
Yeah.
the artists that he did collaborations with doing these songs. That's interesting. Maggie Rogers stands out as someone that they could
Oh yeah.
anoint as like, okay, like the next like Grammy artist type of thing. She's been lauded as like the second coming of, you know, pop female rock for a long time,
Yeah,
and
she's definitely a
surrenders
name to watch to see how she does here, no doubt.
surrenders up there, and then uh, we didn't even talk about Blackpink. Like, are we really gonna not get any Blackpink in this? I don't know.
I think Blackpink's best chance is probably on some of the song
Yeah.
categories. I mean, just a year ago, BTS didn't get an album nom either, but they have gotten some pop vocal group performance noms, whatever the award title is these days. Yeah, I think it would be awesome if like Shutdown got a nomination in one of the song categories. But yeah, I unfortunately don't think any K-pop is gonna break through album of the year. But Born Pink would probably be the one with the best chance.
And I gotta say, like, if one thing would make me really happy, getting a Black Country New Road nomination, just like sneaking in there, would like blow my mind. The thing that would kill me is if Kanye gets any love at this, because Donda 2 is up for consideration, and that would just be a
It is
fucking
technically, you're
travesty.
right. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
there's no chance,
yeah,
honestly, after everything
zero.
that's happened more recently. And also it wasn't a good record, so
Yeah,
we don't
terrible.
need that.
All right, Dave. So now that we've kind of gone through all the possibilities, give me your like top 8 here.
Yeah, okay. So get the big five: Adele, Beyonce, Kendrick, Bunny, Harry, lock. Let's go Lizzo. Let's go Brandy Carlisle at 7. Let's go Ed Sheeran equals. That's what, 8?
It's gonna do it.
Yeah. Let's go there. Maybe we take out Ed and throw ABBA in. I kind of have a feeling ABBA's going to get in.
Yeah, I could see ABBA getting in. I wonder if maybe Harry's house isn't going to. I don't know.
That
That's the
would
one I
be
just I
that would
just
be
don't want.
that would be some taste, bro. That would be something. Just see like, hey,
I know.
we'll nominate As It Was, but the house is staying away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I had to like take take one out of there, yeah, it probably would be
Right.
switching like Ed Sheeran with like Rosalia, because I could see them going international with Bunny, but I guess maybe Bunny's gonna cover that corner. I don't know. This is hard, man. There's so many
Right.
good albums this
Of
past
course,
year.
the Weeknd's Dawn FM would have been right there in the mix if the Weeknd would let his label submit it.
But fuck that. Like, why would he do that again? I don't know. They fucked him over last time. I don't blame him at all for being salty.
Yeah.
Let's move forward to record of the year though. Again, we're talking the big three at least for this one. Adele with Easy on Me, Harry Styles As It Was, and Beyonce. The one that she's submitting is Break My Soul, which makes sense. That was the single. Those three absolute locks. Lizzo with About Damn Time also seems like a lock from there.
Yeah.
But then is the TikTok sensation Bad Habit going to be in there? Are we going to
Well,
get the 10-minute All Too Well Taylor version?
that's the thing, right? And we'll just say, all right, at the back, well, let's talk about record and song of the year kind of in the same boat. They have different
Yeah.
definitions, but often the artists submit the same song for both, with a few exceptions. One is more about the words and the songwriting, as you can expect. The other one's about the whole construction of the record, the whole song itself with the music. When you look at the nominations year of the year, they're always pretty similar. So we'll just keep it all in one. Yeah, well, I would love to see Bad Habit in there because that was a song that was just straight up good when it came out. It didn't need TikTok to make people like it. TikTok made it popular, obviously, but like we liked that song the first time we heard it. It's a great
Hmm.
song. I love that song. Um, that would be really awesome for Steve to get in there. The Internet, of course, his R&B band has been Grammy nominated in the past, so it wouldn't come out of nowhere.
It would not come out of nowhere. And I think that there's a really good chance for him to get in there. One that and I also think All Too Well has a good chance to get nominated here, which would be crazy that we're gonna be talking Harry, Adele, Beyonce, and Taylor and Lizzo all in the same category. It's like insane.
Hmm.
One of the sites that I was looking at for the research mentioned we don't talk about Bruno from the Encanto cast. I mean, I didn't
Hmm.
even think about that for the Grammys, but makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Lin
I mean,
Manuel,
if the album is perhaps in the mix, then surely Bruno's in the mix.
absolutely.
I'd support it honestly. I have no beef with it as
I
getting
wouldn't
some kind of love there.
I wouldn't hate it. I think there's just other songs I'd want to get in
Yeah,
here, right? So like Kendrick submitted The Heart Part 5. I think that one would be a great song to
interesting.
put in there. Bad Bunny submitted Después de la Playa. Get that
Yeah,
in there. That
After the
song's
beach.
fucking fire. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Um, and then we didn't even get to some of these other ones, like ABBA's song, like you mentioned, probably has a good shot of getting in there. Billie Eilish submitted TV. Jack Harlow with First Class, which would be terrible, but could get in there. I mean, what other
Yeah.
songs stand out to you as possibilities?
Joji, Glimpse of Us, anyone?
Let's go.
Could happen. Um, I'm pulling for Lady Gaga's song on the Top Gun Maverick soundtrack, Hold My Hand, because I think that song is amazing. It's not as big as Shallow, but I think it's still pretty darn good. Probably not gonna happen, but that's one of my picks here. I saw a lot of love for Dove Cameron's Boyfriend on predicting sites and stuff. I don't know about that one, honestly. Bad Habit, Ed Sheeran, I guess,
Two
technically.
bad habits in the same category.
That would be funny. Actually, wait, no. I think that might have came out in the last period as a single, and the
Gotcha.
album's the one that's in the mix. So maybe Ed can't be in here. I'm not sure. I did see, and this kind of confused the shit out of me. I think it was like Billboard said this. Doja Cat's "Woman" is eligible for song categories because it came out as a single on October 1st, aka day one of this period. Of course, Planet Her came out in June 2021, last year's Grammy period. Woman was on Planet Her, so why is the single somehow nominatable? I don't get it.
I have
But
no
the
idea.
Grammys are confounding sometimes. I think
Just
in terms of Doja, like the Post Malone Doja song "I Like You,"
mhm.
the biggest post song off that record. Doja had some love last year. Maybe that one could break through in something, but
And just to clean up, Ed Sheeran submitted "Shivers," not "Bad Habits." So,
yeah,
what
Bad was the
honestly,
last year.
both those songs sound the same in my head. So,
It's true.
whatever, I'll imagine it. I think this is really going to be an interesting test for how strong the TikTok like brand is at these Grammys, because the anxiety, which is Willow Smith and the other guy, uh, meet me at our spot, is going to be up, is nominated or potentially nominated in this category,
Wait,
as
what?
well
It
as,
is?
yeah, and as well as I Hate You by SZA, which
Oh, right. Yes.
interesting, but those are two huge TikTok songs, so really going to test I think just how strong that social media site is impacting these.
Yeah.
I don't really see any others up here that really catch my interest.
I think some of the other songs that come to mind are probably for the other categories, like Coldplay BTS collab My Universe. That could be in like pop group vocal performance, whatever that one's called, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, I know there's a big kerfluffle with Nicki Minaj's Super Freaky Girl not being in rap and actually being in the pop category. Um, Nicki was trading words on Twitter with Lotto because Big Energy is actually going to be competing in melodic rap. So there's a lot of other big songs I think will probably just be in genre, like
Hmm.
those ones. But I mean, Super Freaky Girl did go number one. Perhaps slightly possible, but I probably wouldn't pick it.
Yeah, no, I think the ones that we mentioned at the top, uh, the three big songs from the three big stars there, "Easy on Me," as it was, "Break My Soul," and then "About Damn Time" as well. I think "All Too Well," "Bad Habit" are locks, and then I'd like to see the Heart Part 5, and we don't talk about Bruno, but I imagine Brandy Carlisle's probably going to get a song in here.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yep.
maybe Bruno gets kicked out. Maybe Kendrick doesn't get the love this time around. I really would love to see Joji get in there, though. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I'd
Joji
root
and
for that.
Steve both getting noms would be really nice, just for like the meritocracy of awards and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We got to talk about Best New Artist, which this is a hilarious category. We've
Every
talked about
year
it.
we say the same thing because it doesn't change.
It's nuts. And some of these artists, I really like don't know them, right? So some of the ones that seem like they have a good shot, people like Zach Bryan.
Yeah,
I'm assuming he's a country artist.
Zach Bryan, lock him in. He's like I think a significant artist to and justly nominated because he's like the first country artist to really blow up and target streaming music. As we know, country for a long time was much more traditional with album sales and radio and stuff. But Zach Bryan is like a true, genuine country country streaming star, and has also been really well liked. So yeah, really makes sense actually for this award, which is nice because there are some artists that don't really make sense because they're not actually new.
Oh, do you mean like Mitski, who's been making like records since 2010? Like, I, I don't even know how she's even on here.
So the way Best New Artist works is you're allowed to submit yourself 3 times. Blackpink was technically in the mix for Best New Artist last year, the 5th year of their existence. It seems like Mitski just was not submitted formally 3 times in the past, so that's why she's technically in the mix here. But it's a ludicrous notion, obviously. Like Laurel Hell was what, her fifth, sixth record? Like,
Yeah, six. Her first album came out a decade ago. A
yeah.
decade ago.
I
Like
mean,
she's
and they
been.
just did this like 2 years ago with Kaytranada, who also had a decade-long career to that point. You know, they keep doing it. So yeah, like Mitski is, I think, the biggest offender this time around. I saw Soccer Mommy is still in the mix. Little TJ, like Anita, Anita had a really big blow up in the West in the United States. Um, she's been huge in Latin circles for a very long time. Again, it's just kind of disingenuous to suggest that they're new. I saw that Twice was eligible for Best New Artist. They are a K-pop group that has already progressed through their first label contract and has renewed because a lot of time had passed. We just talked about the 11th Twice EP in August. How could you possibly call them a new artist? You know,
I, I
it's
have no
wild
idea.
shit. Man,
It's
it's wild
crazy.
shit.
And there's some artists on here that seem like like it kind of makes sense. Black Country New Road is up,
Yeah,
which would
that'd
be
be a good
great.
one.
Although they are not going to be abandoned anymore moving forward, so a
Yeah,
bit
maybe not
disappointing.
worth it. Yeah,
Joji with his third album that just came out, but only two by the time of the award window
right.
closing. So I don't mind that one so much. Same with Snail Mail, Lindsey Jordan would be great.
Yeah,
But it seems like we're gonna get a pretty eclectic approach here. Lotto is like probably the most surefire lock for this category.
yep,
Um,
justly.
you mentioned Anita, Mooney Long seems like they have a good shot. Tate McRae, which I could have
Yeah,
sworn they've been around for a lot longer, but Tate
yeah.
McRae, sure,
I mean, it was the debut album this year,
yeah,
so
just
that
feels like
one's
they've
fine.
been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Um, any others that really stand out to you here?
yeah. I mean, there's some. I'd love to see Fireboy DML get in here on the Afrobeat side of things. That'd be awesome. More eclectic, probably not likely, but Pink Panthers would come to mind here. Um, I think people that we've talked about before, like features like Blast or Omar Apollo, like rising artists, new enough to call new. Um, I don't know how likely it is, but someone I really like is an indie artist called Remy Wolf, kind of like an indie pop singer.
Mhm.
That'd be a really inspired pick because she's not super mainstream still. I think that'd be pretty cool. Um, there's other K-pop candidates, obviously, um, and notably, if you've been nominated before at the Grammys, you're not eligible to win Best New Artist anymore. So people like Steve Lacy, Jack Harlow, Thames, Chloe Bailey, all cannot be nominated. Um, Rina Sawayama apparently is still eligible. Of course, I was calling for her to be nominated last year. Now we have a whole nother Rina album has come out. Um, yeah, put her in there. This is, I think, notable though that this is a Best New Artist year that doesn't quite have the star power of the past few years. Like the last four winners of this award, like you really can't top this: Olivia Rodrigo, Megan Thee Stallion, Billie Eilish, and Dua Lipa. Like
Yeah, no,
we don't have someone of that caliber up this year, but
no.
still a lot of talent, a lot of interesting people.
A couple of favorites of the pod that are also up for it that we haven't talked about. Kim Petras, or you might have mentioned Kim Petras actually,
Hmm.
but Little Sims as well is
Yep.
not potentially nominated. So I would really like Little Sims to get it.
Yeah,
Really
that'd be
enjoy her.
awesome, huh? Oh, Kim
But
Petras, her song with Sam Smith, "Unholy," which went number one. Maybe
huge.
that's actually probably in the mix for some of the other pop awards and maybe even bigger. We should have mentioned that before.
That's a good call. Yeah, that song is everywhere right now. Yeah, this is an interesting category, and there's just no way to predict it because I think based on our tastes and things like that, I'm not totally tuned in to some of these artists,
Yeah,
so it's hard to like gauge exactly how famous they are. But I look
yeah,
at like I look at the awards, like they give the odds and like snail mail being like the 40th best chance to like make this category. I'm like, what? How? Like, Ben
I know.
Franklin. Like, I listen to that song all the time. Like, fuck,
Yep. Love it.
crazy.
Yeah, I think someone else in the mix who I'm not really too familiar with is this teenager named Gail, who actually will be going on tour with Taylor Swift next year.
Yeah,
So
that
kind of makes sense there.
that
Oh,
Taylor Swift tour, dog. I mean, her openers are insane. Paramore, Haim, Phoebe
yep.
Bridgers. Like, what?
Someone else who I haven't seen listen to any of the ballots yet, but I think is a clear candidate for Best New Artist would be Ethel Cain, who is an indie singer who has really come on this year, and she just screams, "Oh, she'll be nominated for Best New Artist in 2 years."
Yeah.
She's like still too new, you know. So keep an eye out for Ethel Cain. But like her song was an American Teenager, I think it is. Like she's got some interesting songs and has like a uncompromising approach to like alternative and like indie music that is somehow becoming mainstream pop appealing. Interesting person to pay attention to. It would be really inspiring if someone as new in their career as Ethel Cain actually got in this category, but I'd probably pick against it this year.
I think there's any chance that we to just to circle back to the songs that we see like Pink Venom because that was nominated for like record and song. They gotta
I
get K-pop in there somehow, right? You
I
can't
would
just
I
ignore
would call if I would put for Shutdown. I think like I forget the names they always change, but like the group like vocal pop
it.
vocal performance category. I think that's where we should push for Shutdown because that's kind of where Dynamite and Butter were nominated the last
That's
two
true.
years. So yeah, probably one day we'll get an album K-pop out in there, but like I can't see the J-Hope album breaking through
No.
to get nominated. Which would have been cool if it did. I like the album, but um, for the rock album category, do you think the second Machine Gun Kelly album, Mainstream Sellout, will get nominated? Because they didn't nominate his last one, Tickets to My Downfall. Do you think second time's the charm for MGK's rock pivot?
That's a good question. No,
It
I
wasn't as
don't.
big a record this time around.
I don't think it will. I think that's gonna be full of old heads and
Mhm.
I'm thinking like Red Hot Chili Peppers had a pretty liked
Yeah.
album this past year. Jack White also had a pretty
Yep.
liked album. So I think some of those older heads will probably take the spots, but you never know. I can't get my head around the Machine Gun Kelly love. It's so baffling, and him and Megan Fox relationship is terrifying to me.
It is
Scary
something.
people.
Yep.
Dave, any picks for the rap category? Anything that you think is gonna be there?
Yeah, I think rap album actually is a bit easier to predict than it has been the past few years. If you reflect back, there's been a lot of older heads, a lot of older rappers being nominated, which has been largely a good thing for the most part. But I think this year it's pretty easy to see. Like Kendrick, missing around the big steppers,
Mhm.
nominated and winning. So move being beyond that, what else is going to happen? Well, the last time Freddie Gibbs dropped an album, he got nominated for Alfredo. Surely Soul Sold Separately, which came out on the last day of the Grammy period. I think that one's pretty safe too. Jid, Forever Story. I think a lot of people would really want to see that one happen, and I think it needs to happen. That one really deserves it. And then Pusha T, another great record from him. I think those four are all pretty safe. So who's the fifth one? You have Future in the mix. I don't think Joey Badass is famous enough. Honestly, given they've been focusing on old heads, I would not be shocked to see Black Thought and Danger Mouse's cheat codes get in there. But you also have like Rock Marciano and The Alchemist's The Elephant Man's Bones coming out. It depends how like hip hop head they really get, but they kind of have been going down that road lately. You know, I'm trying to think like in terms of like younger, more Atlanta sounding stuff, like the Little Baby album isn't this period. So you have like After the Future record, which was quite big. You have like the Gunna album, Little Dirk album, Yeet. Like I don't know. Like, I can't really see any of them getting in. I have a feeling like the one thing we don't want to see is we don't want to see Jack get in there.
No.
Like that's not justified. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Kendrick, Jid, Gibbs, Pusha, and Black Thought.
I like it. I think that that's a good call. Any other predictions or Feeling pretty good with where we're at.
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I would love to know more of like it'd be really cool if we could see like everything that gets submitted because
Yeah.
obviously like artists and labels pick one song for the category or maybe they pick a few, but like what they submitted and thus what's actually getting thought about. And it's kind of hard to like do a lot of those like genre song predictions when you don't actually know what's in the mix because a lot of times the song I would pick doesn't actually get submitted. So therefore it can't even get nominated.
Yeah. I think that this is going to be a year with a few surprises, but mostly locks. So uh, we might have some things to talk about. We'll be recapping it next week. So hit that subscribe on youtube.com/nostalgiapod. And if you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment for who you think should get nominated. And if
Yep.
there's any new artists that we didn't mention that you think should be nominated, drop and tell us why we should be listening to them or reviewing them. Dave, we're gonna wrap it
One
up.
last note, actually, I forgot. We should note Silk Sonic, Anderson Paak, Bruno Mars, they decided not to submit their album, which came out in this period. They decided that Leave the Door Open, which was in the last Grammy cycle as a single, they thought all the love they got for Leave the Door Open was enough, and they chose not to submit the album, which justified album to be nominated for sure, but I actually kind of respect that. They're like, no, we're happy with what happened last year. That's enough for us.
Hell yeah.
Kind of nice.
Good for them. Dave, we're gonna wrap up there. What do we got for next week?
So next week, obviously, we have the long-awaited Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2. Very exciting. We'll also be talking about the fourth and final season of Atlanta, which has been very strong. Excited to talk about that. Of course, we'll get into the Grammy nominations after they officially come out. And then there's a bunch of records still. Christine and the Queens, Nas, King Disease 3, Glorilla. Um, Lil Rel Howery has a comedy special coming out. I like Lil Rel.
Okay,
Some stuff coming up.
we'll talk about it. Hit that subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod. Go to our Twitter at nostalgiapod. Follow the link tree to follow the podcast any way you can there. And we'll catch you next week.